Today we're going to be working on some spring-inspired thrift flips. I have some items here in front of me that I painted with Sweet Pickins Creamy. If you've not used milk paint before, it comes in a powder form and you mix it with water to make your paint. I also added just a bit of the extra bond to that batch of paint. This is the additive that helps your milk paint stick to shiny surfaces. Now, most of my surfaces were wood, but I wanted a lot of that milk paint to stay on and not all chip off. That's where the extra bond comes in. And I also used some of the Sweet Pickins Crackle on this shelf. This is a kind of like glue-like substance that you put on before your final coat of paint, and it provides this beautiful, authentic crackle effect. I don't have footage of painting these things. I was doing some batch painting on my last thrift flip video, but I will link some videos down below where I used the milk paint if you need more of a step-by-step tutorial on how to mix and use it. But now all these projects are done, and I thought it would be really fun to show you some different techniques to finish them, including some stencils and transfers. On our first sign, I'm using a JRV Cooperative Agricole stencil. These are great, thick stencils made to be used over and over again. Perfect for makers and resellers. This one fits great on this sign. I'm using a 1-inch stencil brush and DIY Farm Fresh. I'm gonna get just a little bit of paint on my brush and actually offload most of that here onto my paper towel. That is going to give me the most clean, crisp image. I'm gonna go in here with a swirling motion and a really light touch and start filling in all of those negative spaces in my stencil. Once the paint was dry, I distressed it with some 220 grit sandpaper to distress my image as well. Now we'll seal them up with some DIY clear wax. This will be super easy. It's a buttery soft wax, very easy to apply. Sometimes I use a brush, sometimes I just use a bit of a paper towel. Notice how it brings the richness of that paint color back out once you seal it. And look how easy. I'm just gonna apply this in an even coat and it will be sealed and complete. For paint, products, and the flips, you can find everything over at upcycledbybrie.com. I'll be sure to drop links down in the description box below for you as well. I removed the heart-shaped front off of this little handmade shelf. It was pretty easy. I just pried it off. It was only on with a few nails. Gave it a totally updated look. I removed all the old hearts off of this shelf and I am loving all the little cubbies that's left. Now we're just going to do a little stencil here along the side of it. These are the Apothecary Labels too. Anything with little cubbies reminds me of an apothecary style, so I chose that. I'm using some layered chocolate and a 3/8 inch stencil brush. Same method here, just a little paint on my brush, offloading that onto a paper towel and swirling. Now there's one section on this stencil where I started rushing a bit too much. I had too much paint and you see it right there on the word main. Now fortunately, I like a good distressed look. I'll be sanding this down, so I'm not too worried. If something like that happens to you, no worries. You can always paint over your piece again and try again, or with DIY paint, it's water soluble until it's sealed. So take a wet paper towel, wipe that paint off if you mess up, and you should be able to start again. Use that same DIY clear wax to seal up the outside. To freshen and seal up the inside of these little cubbies again, I've got some of the new Sweet Pickins Tung Oil. This is a hard drying finish. It's great to use over milk paint or straight over your wood. And you can see what a difference it makes in freshening up that natural wood. On this rolling pin, I sanded it down nice and smooth with 220 grit sandpaper, wiped it completely off, and now I'm going to be using some of the transfers. These are redesigned with Prima. I've cut out a few that I would like to use. Now, the next step is to just peel them off of the paper backing, and we'll place it on the rolling pin wherever we would like it. We'll press that down till it sticks, and then with the enclosed rubbing tool, we'll start rubbing over that transfer. We'll start lifting here, and then if certain sections aren't sticking, just press them down as you work around it. But look how easily it is adhering to that nice curved painted surface. I love giving my transfers a distressed look as well. I'm just using some sandpaper in my hand here, and this is like 400 grit. Very, very fine. That way I don't lose too much of my image. And I'm sealing this rolling pin up with that same Tung Oil by Sweet Pickins Milk Paint. For this next project, I bought this cutting board. It does have a crack in it, but it had cute little feet, so I went ahead and picked it up. I listed in the description that I was gonna give it a faux repair with some copper. I cut these off of some old copper pieces that weren't selling, and I will just use it and form a faux repair over that crack. First, we are going to use our DIY Dark and Decrepit to stain it up dark. This is a multi-use product. It has a built-in sealer, but it's all natural and VOC free, just like the paint, so you can totally use it inside without that stinky stain smell. Now, look how it's beautifully picking up all of those little cuts that were already in this board. It's going to make this board look a lot older and way cooler. Using some tiny screws, I just screw this faux repair onto the board, and it gives it just a fun little extra touch. Now, this board has already sold to a customer with the last and first name starting with C, actually, so I hope she loves it. Thank you, Charlotte. Next up, we are going to freshen up these quail. I bought them $8 for the pair and sold them for $24.95. Just gonna give them a nice, simple, updated paint job. The beautiful color, this is called DIY Crinoline. It is an off-white, but it does not pull yellow. That's always my fear with off-whites. This one is absolutely gorgeous. And I'm using my little dipper. This is one of the brand new DIY paint brushes. The performance on these brushes is unlike any other I have tried. They're made specially to be used with the DIY paint. Look at that coverage, y'all. Look at that coverage. If you're used to using a, let's say a department store paint, something right off of the shelf that you can get at your local market, you probably know you're gonna need like 2, maybe even 3 coats of that paint to get it fully covered. So even though the DIY paint is a little more expensive than that, it stretches further, it goes longer because it is so highly pigmented and thick. You're saving time and money in the long run. Here's what we're looking like after 1 coat. So pretty great coverage, but still a little spotty. I'm gonna do some waxing on this, not so much distressing. So I've given it a 2nd coat. That coverage is looking much better. Now we'll let them dry up. Time to put a coat of clear wax on these birds, and then we're gonna go in with some of the dark wax and highlight the details. I like to always take my wax out of the container and put some on the lid. I work off of that just to make sure I'm not getting a bunch of colored paint into my clear wax. Notice the paint's not rubbing off as I'm applying it. I'm just using an older brush here. I like to apply with wax with my brush when I'm having these details. It just helps get down in the crevices. If I'm just doing a flat surface, sometimes I'll just grab a little bit of a clean cloth or paper towel and apply it that way as well. I do paint the bottom of my projects most of the time, if y'all are wondering, just for a nice finished look. I'm gonna wipe back any excess clear wax gently with a paper towel, not losing any paint. And then I've got my dark wax here, again, a little bit in a lid, and I'm going to work in small sections. I'm gonna apply that dark wax right over the top of my clear wax. Don't freak out, I know this looks dark. Since we put the clear wax down first, it's gonna act as a barrier, and it's gonna help us be able to manipulate that dark wax better. If I would have went just straight dark wax over the paint, that porous clay-based paint would have sucked the wax up really quickly, and it could have come out a lot darker than I was wanting. But now you can see that dark wax will sit down in the low points, and I can just wipe it right back off of the high points. Now these quail have already sold as well, but I see them at the thrift store all the time. So if you see a pair, don't hesitate to pick them up. They sold great for me during this spring season. Also, if you'd like to do your own projects, I sell all of the paint and waxes and the brushes that you need. And of course, if you're loving these thrift flip videos, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, send it over to a friend. All of those little things really help my channel continue to grow. If you haven't yet, subscribe and hit the little bell next to that subscribe box. If you click that to all, YouTube will inform you every time I upload a new video. Be sure to follow me over on Facebook, and you can check for all of my social media links down below. Until next time, I'll see y'all later. Bye, friends. Clean, crisp image. Oh, this is backwards. I'm really glad that I realized that before I had it all the way done.